Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby here with the wonderful Sean Hayes, the Tony-nominated Sean Hayes for Goodnight Oscar. Congratulations on this nomination. Are you someone who's up watching? Were you able to watch the nominees live?
It's such a cliche story, but it's true. My husband was up early because I think I had a show the night before or something. Maybe I did. I can't remember, but I slept in, which means like I slept till 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. And he was on the couch and I walked in and he goes, and I'm still wiping the sleep from my eye. And he's like, congratulations. I said, for what? He goes, you got nominated. I go, for what? And he said, a Tony Award. I'm like, what? It was so surreal. I was like, oh my God. And I just fell on the couch. I was like, I can't believe it was so surreal. It was wild. It still is. Such an
Yeah,
honor. It's incredible. I can't believe it.
it's a very deserved honor. And you're doing it. You got one for playing Oscar Levant, and he's such a fascinating character. Was he someone you always had your eye on as someone who interested you that you wanted to portray?
Yeah, for over 20 years now, like about 22, 3 years, from idea to now, it's
Mhm.
been that long. A friend of mine in 2001 had said, you should play Oscar Levant. I was like, who's Oscar Levant? And I went to the Los Angeles Paley Center to watch archival footage. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's fascinating and scary to like think I could play him because he's so far from me. And then I started reading his books, and I thought he was an incredible writer. I don't know if you've read any of his books. Incredible, intelligent, savvy, witty writer. But anyway, and then life happened. That went on the shelf for a little while, and then it came off. Then I had somebody else, a very famous person, said to me, "You should play Oscar." And I was like, "What's happening? This is so crazy." And so I should listen to the universe. So I started developing it. And super long story short, too late. Here we are. And the amazing Doug Wright, wrote this incredible script. Lisa Peterson, incredible director. It's phenomenal cast and producers who know what they're doing. So, it's rare lightning in a bottle happens, but I feel like it did with this show. It's just wild.
Yeah. And I think, it's such a physical and vocal transformation that you have. It's very far away from how we normally see you. Was there, what was like something that clicked with you about him that you said, oh, this is my way in? How did you find that?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I think what people were saying when they kept saying you should play Oscar Levant over
Mhm.
these 20 years, I was like, I get why they're saying it because I play piano. I was a classically trained pianist like Oscar. So that might be a kind of a cool thing to incorporate that um, talent, however you want to absorb that little talent, big talent, whatever it is of my classical piano playing into a role. And then on top of it, he was this incredible wit and often I would say, funny quips and stuff. And that's also kind of what I was known for at the time. So it was like, I can see it, but it was so scary because it was so challenging to try to do something. But then in my mind, I'm like, if we're not challenging ourselves, what are we doing? So, you kind of just hold your breath and dive in the deep end and go, I'm going to swing for the fences. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, great. At least I'm challenging myself.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite after all of your reading and research, a favorite like Oscar saying? He had so many
Oh my God.
shows.
There's a million. One of my favorite ones is I take prescription pills for the side effects. And what's another one? There's one that somebody said about Oscar. I can't remember. Somebody famous said, if he didn't exist, you could not he if Oscar Levant didn't exist, he could not be imagined. And I think that's
Ooh,
so true because he was one of a kind.
I love
But
that.
yeah, no, he had a million things. They're so overwhelming. I can't. I knew Doris Day before she was a virgin, which is which is
We need
crazy.
we need more folks like that, saying some quotable things
I
right now.
know.
Um,
Well, we're not allowed, but that's a different interview. Yeah.
well, the Broadway schedule is already kind of grueling enough, but this to me looks like a character with such tension in him. When I think of your
Yeah.
physical portrayal of him, like he has the
Yeah.
furrowed brow, he's not the best posture.
Yeah.
How do you keep that up for
Well,
the
as
run?
an actor, you've tried to find um it is a lot to keep it up, but as you try to find characters that I was just never given the opportunity. And now I'm given the opportunity kind of because I helped create the opportunity with the help of Doug Wright, Lisa Peterson, and the producers and everybody involved. But you look at his early footage of when he was in American in Paris and all the other movies that he's done, and he seemed like a completely together guy. And it wasn't until he got older, which is when this play takes place, that he developed the tics and the kind of swaying and the chain smoking and there's just so many aspects as an actor that's exciting to dive into, to see if you can authentically inhabit those. And whether I succeed in that is not up to me, it's up to the audiences. But to me, I just loved how rich of a character he was to dive into.
Yeah. I think part of that richness for me came through in a lot of the scenes with Gershwin, because you mentioned he's a concert pianist, and they have like it's an interesting relationship. There's a bit something adversarial there, and yet Oscar looks up to him so much. And I kept thinking, God, Gershwin's a little bit of a bully, a tool to him sometimes.
Well, that's what's so interesting is Oscar was obsessed with Gershwin, as is noted in the play. And you can pick those up in some of the books that he's written, Memoirs of an Amnesiac and The Unimportance of Being Oscar. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think. I haven't read it in so long. But where he mentions Gershwin, he became kind of obsessed with him and then ultimately became possessed by him. And they had this love-hate thing, and Oscar revered him and wanted so badly to have his kind of talent and composition, but never achieved it. And so I love that, how deep Doug Wright dived into that kind of aspect of the play. It's interesting to have studied that part and then to do it.
Yeah, it's just interesting seeing him like with Jack Paar, for instance, where we know Oscar as such an outgoing, boisterous personality, and yet in those moments he's very vulnerable. And it's shocking to see him so vulnerable. What kind of came up for you in those really vulnerable moments?
Yeah, because if you see any footage of him, of course, there's no footage of him in life, right? So you have to create those moments that don't exist on film that you can try to imitate. So for me, in my family history, there's been mental illness and addiction. A lot of it Irish Catholic, enough said. And so from a very, very, very young age, I was observing it. I was witness to a lot of it. And so for me, this role is an opportunity to kind of get out everything that I had to suppress by absorbing all of it. And it's an incredible therapeutic way. So to answer your question, that's kind of what I tap into. And I relate it to my research on Oscar and try to put it together.
Yeah. And I think it all, comes together really beautifully in this finale of a piano performance, which is really where he kind of wants to live. And you also started as a pianist. What was it like preparing for that moment and having to end with just that skill set on stage?
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm tired. Yeah, no, it's a lot. It was a lot. In the script, Doug Wright wrote this beautifully descriptive section and dubbed it Oscar versus the music. And then wrote out this thing that can be interpreted by anybody who ends up doing this play in the future. But for us, it was quite a process. And Lisa was like, okay, here we go. And I remember day one, I was like, I could just see the mountain I had to climb to figure this out with Lisa together about what does this mean? What does the Rhapsody in Blue mean to the piece, to Oscar, to the audience? How are we going to portray that? What is the fight that Oscar's having? Which, if you see the play, you'll know. And so it was a beat by beat discovery process that took a long time and a lot of work. And now I feel very so much gratitude that audiences seem to understand it.
Yeah. And what was the shift for you when you kind of, in your own personal life, shifted away from being a pianist? What made that decision happen?
Well, that's look at you with all the good questions. You know, seriously, nobody's ever asked me that. I think I stopped pursuing it because there was no audience for it. It didn't seem like there was a reason to do it other than
Mm,
personal leisure in my own home. So I was like, well, if I'm learning Chopin and Beethoven and all these difficult pieces, and you're playing them in your house and you look up and nobody's there, what are you doing it for? Sure,
mm,
it's I still do it anyway, but to pursue a career in it was very difficult. So I felt more compelled at a young age to pursue acting rather than um, the rigorous schedule of performing in concert around the world, you know.
yeah. Well, you get to relive, live out the dream here. So that's kind of a nice change of pace.
Yeah. Also,
Um,
the other thing was the pressure and stress that you feel when performing, when playing any instrument. Beethoven wrote notes, and when you play, those are the notes. You can't veer off and create your own thing if something goes wrong. And Mozart, those are the notes. Chopin, those are the notes. Shostakovich, those are the notes. Doesn't matter. They wrote the notes. Where in acting, if something goes wrong, you can kind of ad lib your way around it and then get back on track. If you're doing live theater and TV and film, you can you can do another take. But so the stress and pressure was also something I was happy to release from my life about the piano. Instead, I embrace the stress and pressure of performing live, I guess. I don't know.
well, there is a lot of pressure. I've had so many actors say who start as like musical theater actors say, "Oh, I would love to do a play. It will be so much less pressure to do a play." And you've done it. You were on Broadway in Promises, Promises,
Yeah.
but this seems like, just about as equal workload. How does
I know
that
it's so
pressure
funny. It's so
compare?
funny you say that. I talk about that with my husband all the time about, and I will never do another musical. I don't know how people do. I have the most unbelievable respect for people who not only do it, but enjoy doing it and are great at it. It's like I revere them. The incredible talent to do that and desire. I don't have it. I did it. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I climbed that mountain. Wore it as a badge of honor. I only missed a week because I had bronchitis, but did it. And so it's like I did it. Whether it was received well or not doesn't matter. I did it. And then you go, well, I'm going to do a play because it's easier. And I've done plays in college and out of college and whatever. But this one, this one makes me think, wow, I have to really rethink. Never say never. And it's hard to ask an actor when in the middle of a run, but this one's tough. Yeah.
Is it still easy for you in the middle of a run? And you did this in Chicago as well, to find newness in it and to make it alive each night?
Yeah, there's a little thing I do, we always talk about as actors, our rituals and things before the show.
Yeah.
And there's a scene going on before my scene, and there's a scrim that hides the second set that comes out before the first set. So while that scene's going on, I always stand behind the set and like do my rituals like Oscar would. I have my OCD like Oscar did, and touch certain things a certain amount of times, get into the character, and I forgot what your question was.
Just about finding,
New
newness and
thing.
making it.
Yes. And so and in doing so, I'll run my lines before the scene, and I'll run them and I'll try different ways to do them. It's kind of like a crazy person. It's like, well, you just do the same show you did last night. It's like, but the fun part is finding the smallest things that will affect, maybe an audience wouldn't really notice because it's the first time seeing it, but for you, you discover a new layer or level. Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to bring up that you have a book releasing called Time
Yeah,
Out,
yeah.
which it's a young adult novel, I believe, about high schoolers who are coming out in high school.
Mhm.
Were you always looking to write a book, to become an author? Why this right now?
Yeah. So it's called Time Out, and it's available May 30th, wherever books aren't banned. And it's about my producing partner and I were talking one day about growing up gay in Chicago
Mm.
as teenagers. And we didn't know each other, but we grew up in suburbs that were close. And we ended up going to college, and that's where we met. But I was like, he was into sports. He was a gay guy into sports, and I was a gay guy into the arts. And we were just talking like, what would it have been like if we knew each other in high school? That would have been crazy. And we kind of took that idea and heightened it by making the first, I'm sorry, the most successful high school basketball player in Georgia, the #1 basketball player in high school basketball player in Georgia, come out at the pep rally, and how that would affect his teammates, the town that used to root for him, the state, his family. And because we haven't seen a lot of stories of the LGBTQ stories that has to do with athletes or sports, and I think we need more of those stories. It seems like one of those things we haven't really overcome as a society yet is acceptance of gay athletes. And so it's our little contribution to that. And we've come a long way, but we sure have a long way to go still. And we partnered with Carlin Greenwald. So what happened was, she was an incredible author.
Mm.
So Todd and I wrote the script first. They were like, wait, let's write a book. Let's find somebody who's smarter than us. And that's Carlin. And we all kind of wrote it together and took that story. And that's this book called Time Out.
Well, I can't wait to read it. It sounds like something we really need right now, is something the world could use a bit of.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sean, so much. Fantastic performance in this play. Everyone, check out Goodnight Oscar and stay subscribed to Gold Derby. Keep with us the rest of this season. Sean, congratulations and thank you again.
Thanks, Sam. Such a pleasure to talk to you.